and I like to do fashion DIYs. And in today's video, I am taking this mess of a top and going to try to turn it into something, I don't know, summery? I was thinking some sort of high neck top, but I was also thinking of doing a wrap skirt. I haven't really taken the time to like evaluate this yet. Jeez, why is this so complicated? Oh my god, is that like a mini shoulder pad? Hey, wow. So here she is. This is it. Okay. So, pros, I like the fabric. And I think I can incorporate this to make something kind of cool. I don't think I need the sleeves. I think I want to go sleeveless. And you have all this extra fabric because it's like a wraparound. So yeah, I think this could be fun. I really think that it had this feature, and I thought it would be kind of cool to do some sort of like wraparound. But I don't think this would fit my neck. Okay, so that's kind of what the idea is that I'm working with. I need to measure my neck. 12 inches. So it measures out to be exactly 12 inches, which is the same circumference as my neck, and I don't know, that might be a little bit tight. So I need to kind of figure something else out. And I'm really excited because I have a dress form that I'm really stoked to try and use, but the smallest the neck can go is 13.5 inches, and this is 12, so I can't even use it. That's so unfortunate. Anyways, but maybe I can just like pin it in place so it fits or something in the meantime, because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I am about to find out. Wish me luck.
Okay, so to start, I am going to remove the sleeves by seam ripping them off. I could have just trimmed them off, but I actually really liked the construction of the sleeves, so I am hoping to reuse them for another project. Once the sleeves were removed, I separated the front from the back. I'm going to start with the front since that is where the button loops are. I then measured out 3 inches with my seam gauge around the existing neckline and then added a 1/2 inch seam allowance in chalk. Then cut it out. I repeated the same process to the back. Since the circumference wasn't long enough for my neck, I had to extend it. Starting with the front, I marked where my side seam would be, then drew out my seam line, adding a 1/2 inch seam allowance before cutting. To figure out how much I needed from the back piece, I lined them both up and measured out 12.5 inches, then marked with chalk where my seam line would be on the back piece before trimming off the excess. Then I pinned right sides together before sewing. To create the front of my new top, I'm actually using the back of the shirt. I did this part off camera, but I roughly mapped out how I would like my top to lay out on my dress form and then marked it with chalk. So I just needed to clean up the seam lines, add 1/2 inch seam allowance, and ensure my darts were even before cutting. To make sure the rest of the top was even, I folded it in half while cutting. Now it was time to sew the darts. Once the darts were in place, I just trimmed off the excess and did a simple hem to clean up the sides. To make the straps, I used one of the wrap pieces from the original top. I wanted my straps to be 2 inches wide, so I measured out a total of 5 inch pieces, which included my 1/2 inch seam allowance, and cut. Then I pinned 3 of them right sides together and sewed. Once sewn, I turned them right side out and pressed flat. For the 4th strap, it's going to be on my waistband and I will be attaching it differently, so at this point I have not sewn it with right sides together.
Okay, so I made some progress and I've done most of the pinning on my dress form. I've honestly done very little sewing at this point. It's just kind of mapping out where my pieces are going. So the only part that I've actually sewn is the bodice piece at this point, and I'm working on the straps and how that's gonna work, and also the neck piece. I'm gonna eventually cut all this off. I'm just trying to map out where the waistband should go, and then also the darts, I'm trying to like pin it to see how that's gonna look. And I think I'm also gonna add like a little gather here just so this like looks a little bit like, I don't know, nicer. And then my neck, I'm gonna have the buttons on the side, and then it's gonna be a neck, like a little button closure here. And then the back, It's going to be pretty open backed with these two straps, and then I'm also going to be having this across the back, and this will actually be opening and closing with buttons as well, because I have to figure out like how to get in and out of this thing. So buttons is the solution that I'm going with. So I'm probably just gonna have two buttons here, just like I have at the top here. It's gonna be two buttons at the top. So that's what I'm working with. So I think the next step would be to cut off the extra fabric and then start tailoring the waist so I can add the waistband. So wish me luck. Hopefully this can get done in the next few hours. I'm really slow at this.
Once I trimmed off the excess, it was easy to fit the waist. I added 2 more darts to the waist, and once the fit looked right, I used my chalk to map out the darts. Once I had taken the top off my dress form, I measured out my darts to ensure that they were even, pinned it in place and drew my sew line, and repeated the same thing to the other side before sewing. Once the darts were in place, I pinned the bodice back onto my dress form to get a better idea of where I wanted to place the waistband. Once I liked the placement, I used my chalk to mark the sew line. Keep in mind that I will still need to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance from this line. To ensure that the waistband is centered with the top, I folded it in half to find the middle and marked with chalk. Before I could do the same to the bodice, I needed to trim off the excess. Then I folded it in half to find the middle. With the waistband open, I pinned right sides together, matching up my center fronts, and then sewed. To secure the raw side of the waistband, I folded it above my sew line to do a stitch in the ditch for a clean finish, pinning it in place to make sure the fabric catches while I sew. Now that the front bodice is complete, it's time to attach the neck piece. At this point, I realize it's a little too wide for my liking, so I'm going to measure out 2.5 inches. This includes my seam allowance as well before cutting. Then I pinned the neck piece to the bodice and gave the remaining raw edge a small single folded hem for a finished look. To complete the neck, all I had to do was hand sew the 2 buttons in place. So the last thing I needed to do was attach the straps, which I will be attaching one end to the neckband and the other closer to the waistband. I pinned both sides before sewing into place. The final strap is the back side of the waistband. I folded the strap in half to find the middle and cut it into 2. Then pinned the right sides together on either side of the waistband before sewing it into place. The final step was to use my machine to sew buttonholes and then hand sew on the buttons.
Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, so I am this close to being done. So as you can see, it's a little gapey here, which I feel like that's just readjusting the darts, which I will do off camera just to avoid the headache. But look how cute. Adorable. And then like the high neck worked out. Okay, so I just need to kind of finish up all the ends of the straps. I didn't want to cut off all the excess before I was completely happy with the fit, and I'm completely happy with the fit everywhere minus this, but this is just the darts that I'll have to take in a little bit more, which involves taking out the existing ones and then resewing them so they're a little bit larger. Well, stay tuned for the final after when I've corrected the fit.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked this video and want to see more DIYs and fashion content, please subscribe and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!